I've been splitting and stacking this sugar maple. We're up to the bottom end of the tree now at just the biggest rounds. So I'm working the log splitter in the vertical position, which I don't do all that much, but when you have really big rounds that you can't lift, it is definitely the way to do it. Now, as we start splitting, I'll explain a little bit why I don't love working in the vertical position compared to the horizontal position. So here's the first thing. Because you have this end of the beam here, you end up being raised up off the ground by an inch and a half. And so when you set a round on here, it's naturally going to tilt away from where that wedge comes down. And so in order to get a good split on these, a lot of the time, you push it up and hold it in place. Here's a really good example of needing to hold the pieces. So I just knocked this round in half. And so as you can see, this other half, I want to split it, right? Well, that is not going to be in the pathway of the wedge, no matter how I set it on here. So I've got no choice but to hold this up. And that does get my hands closer to harm's way. Whereas if I'm horizontal, then gravity would hold this in place. Another thing I don't really like about the vertical position is it's not very ergonomical. I'm over 6 feet tall, and I have to work on my hands and knees to work with the logs down here, whereas when it's in the horizontal position, I can stand up. And as long as I can squat to pick up the round, at least at that point, I can stay standing. Here, I'm stuck on my hands and knees for the entire time that I'm splitting. Totally worth it to be able to split these big rounds with hydraulics compared to swinging them all. However, it's not the most comfortable way to split. It's nicer, if you can do it, to have this horizontal. Well, we did pretty well with this sugar maple, got about 3/4 of a cord of firewood out of it. Using the log splitter was fantastic given the number of knots in this. Sugar maple's usually not so easy to split compared to, say, red maple or other maple varieties. Using the splitter in the vertical position is great for dealing with those big heavy rounds. However, if I can reasonably do a squat and pick up a round, I would much rather set it on the beam in the horizontal position so that I can stand up and not be working on my hands and knees. Ergonomically, that's just better for me, my back, and my knees.